The rhythmic thump of the fetal heart monitor echoed against the cold tiles of my hospital room. My phone vibrated on the plastic tray table. A fraud alert glared from the screen. My emergency medical credit card. $7,500. Processed 6 days ago for a VIP Bahamas cruise package. My fingers tapped out a quick text to my husband. Trevor, where are you? 3 dots danced on the screen. Then, his reply. At the construction site. It is a nightmare out here in the heat. Miss you. I locked the screen. The air in the room turned perfectly thin. My daughter kicked hard against my ribs. A sharp reminder of exactly what was at stake. I pressed my palm flat against my stomach and stared straight up at the blank white ceiling tiles. Enjoy the sun. I whispered to the empty room. Because I am going to burn your entire world to the ground. My name is Natalie Bennett. I am 34 years old. And for the last 15 years, my actual career has been in retail management. Dealing with shoplifters, scammers, and people who lie to your face with a smile is my daily reality. I can spot a con from a mile away. Yet, somehow, I became the ultimate blind spot for Marcus Sullivan and his family. When I married Trevor, I did not just get a husband. I was drafted into an unpaid, high-stress position as the financial fixer for Sullivan Construction. Marcus, my father-in-law, was a man who ran his local construction empire on the currency of toxic loyalty. He demanded weekends, late nights, and endless favors, framing my free labor as my duty to the family legacy. I reconciled their chaotic books. I balanced their ledgers. I fixed the messes created by Trevor and his incredibly lazy, vain sister, Courtney. I spent my own savings keeping their country club facade pristine while they contributed absolutely nothing. I thought being useful meant being loved. I thought if I just worked hard enough, I would finally earn my seat at their table. My phone buzzed again. Trevor sending another text. Eating a cold sandwich in the dirt. This project is killing me. Wish I was resting in a hospital bed like you. I picked up my phone and switched to my burner Instagram account. Courtney was addicted to social media validation, and she never checked her follower lists closely. I tapped on her close friends story. The screen lit up with the blinding turquoise water of the Caribbean. There was Courtney, holding a $50 margarita, panning the camera across a luxury yacht deck. And right there in the background was Trevor. He was wearing the crisp blue linen shirt I had ironed for him the night before my blood pressure spiked and sent me to the emergency room. He was laughing, clinking a glass with his father, completely sunburned and carefree. They left me in a high-risk maternity ward to swipe my emergency credit card for a luxury vacation, and then had the sheer audacity to complain to me about eating dirt. The remaining warmth in my blood turned to ice. I stopped being a wife in that exact second. I became the executioner. I pulled my laptop from the overnight bag beside my bed. My fingers flew across the keyboard, logging directly into our joint savings account to secure the funds I needed for my impending medical bills. The balance stared back at me. 0. My chest tightened. But my retail instincts took over. People who steal are usually greedy, and greedy people make stupid mistakes. I clicked into the transaction history. Trevor had not taken out small, untraceable amounts. He had initiated a massive, lump sum wire transfer of $50,000 to a hidden, individual account under his name. But he forgot how banks actually work. An unannounced transfer of that size triggers a standard 3-day anti-money laundering hold. The money was marked pending. I hovered my cursor over the transaction and clicked cancel. The funds instantly snapped back into the joint account. Without hesitating, I routed exactly 50% of the money, my legal half, into a brand new, highly secure solo account at a completely different banking institution. I left his $25,000 sitting in the joint account, frozen solid, but I knew Trevor, and I knew Marcus. The stolen savings and the cruise tickets were just symptoms of a much deeper rot. I opened a new tab and connected to the Sullivan Construction private server. As the unpaid bookkeeper who set up their entire software ecosystem every January, I knew exactly how Marcus operated. He loved to hide things, but he hated remembering passwords. I navigated to the restricted administrative folders. A harsh red encryption wall blocked my access. A normal person would have been locked out. But years ago, tired of Marcus calling me at midnight because he locked himself out of his own files, I had quietly built a master administrator backdoor into the architecture. I typed in his predictably narcissistic password. Sully's Pride won. The encryption dissolved. The real ledger opened, rows upon rows of hidden cash transactions, phantom payroll accounts, and offshore supply shell companies flooded my screen. I cross-referenced the numbers with the official tax returns I had been manipulated into preparing. The discrepancy was catastrophic. Marcus had not just been using me for free labor. He had been hiding $1,800,000 in embezzled corporate funds. And he had been using my clean, pristine name and signature as a human shield for federal tax fraud. They thought I was just a naive retail manager they could exploit. They forgot that the person who builds the maze is the only one who knows all the exits. I picked up my phone and dialed the fraud department of my credit card company. I did not ask for a temporary freeze. I reported the card formally stolen. I knew exactly what that meant. A freeze stops new vendors. But reporting it stolen invalidates the plastic globally. Immediately. When that luxury cruise line attempted to run their mandatory daily gratuity sweep at midnight, that card would hard decline. Their room keys would deactivate. They would be publicly locked out of their VIP suites and escorted to the purser's desk in front of hundreds of wealthy guests. Next, I called Julia. She was a ruthless, brilliant family and tax attorney I had met years ago during a corporate compliance seminar. I laid out the exact parameters of the Sullivan family fraud. We did not waste time screaming at the wind or engaging in petty arguments. Julia moved with terrifying legal precision. First, she formally submitted Form 211, the official application for a whistleblower award, directly to the Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigation Division. Then, she filed a bulletproof application for innocent spouse relief to legally sever my liability from Marcus and Trevor's federal crimes, to ensure Marcus knew exactly whose neck was in the noose without waiting for the slow grind of government bureaucracy. Julia drafted a formal notice of discovery. She sent it via same-day legal courier, directly to Marcus's corporate attorney. The letter was incredibly brief. It stated that the authentic, unedited secondary ledger was already in the possession of the federal government to shield her client, and advised them to prepare their criminal defense immediately. The trap was fully set. Now, I just had to wait for the rat. 2 days later, the door to my hospital room swung open. Trevor walked in. He smelled heavily of duty-free cologne layered over follicle-deep premium sunscreen. He slumped into the visitor chair, rubbing his eyes, putting on a spectacular performance of the exhausted, overworked provider. Traffic from the site was brutal. He sighed, reaching for my hand. I am so glad to finally see you. I did not pull my hand away. I did not raise my voice. I smiled gently, reached over to my bedside table, and handed him a glossy white gift bag. Welcome home, I said softly. Trevor smiled, clearly thinking it was a baby gift. He reached inside and pulled out a thick stack of papers. The top page was the official petition for divorce. Beneath that was the printed receipt showing the canceled $50,000 wire transfer. And at the very bottom was the decline notice from the cruise line security desk. I watched his entire reality shatter in real time. The color completely drained from his face. A thick bead of sweat broke out on his sunburned forehead. He looked from the papers to me, his mouth opening and closing like a suffocating fish. He stuttered out a frantic, pathetic string of gaslighting excuses. It was a misunderstanding. Marcus made him do it. The accounts were just confused. I let him drown in his own panic. I stared at him with the exact same cold, dead-eyed detachment I use when a shoplifter tries to tell me the merchandise just fell into their purse, realizing his charm was completely useless and his money was gone. The mask slipped. The exhausted husband vanished, replaced by a cornered, vicious animal. He leaned over my hospital bed, his face inches from mine, his breath shaking with rage. "You think you can just take my money and walk away," he snarled. "I will destroy you. I will call Child Protective Services right now. I will tell them the pregnancy complications made you psychotic. I will say you are a danger to this baby. You will never see her. You will freeze that account and drop this divorce. Or you are leaving this hospital completely alone." He turned on his heel and stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard the medical monitors rattled. He genuinely thought he had played the ultimate trump card. He thought he possessed the power to terrorize me into submission. He was entirely wrong. Fast forward 3 weeks. The emergency custody and restraining order hearing took place in a sterile, wood-paneled courtroom in downtown Charleston. Trevor sat at the respondent's table, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, looking every bit the victim. His high-priced defense attorney spent 20 minutes painting me as a paranoid, vindictive, hormonally unbalanced woman who was trying to alienate a loving father from his unborn child. The judge, a stern woman with zero tolerance for courtroom theatrics, looked over her glasses at Julia. "Counsel, do you have a response to these allegations?" Julia stood up smoothly. She did not argue. She did not present a character witness. She simply walked a forensic tablet up to the judge's bench and pressed play. It was the screen recording of Courtney's Instagram story from the yacht. Courtney had posted it purely out of vanity, desperate to make an ex-boyfriend jealous. Her narcissism completely overriding her situational awareness. In the foreground, she posed with her drink, but in the background, the audio was crystal clear. It captured a panicked, sunburned Trevor having a hushed, aggressive argument with Marcus after the cruise line locked them out. "I have to hit her where it hurts to get that account unfrozen," Trevor hissed on the recording. "I will call Child Protective Services. I will say the pregnancy made her unstable." The courtroom fell into a silence so heavy it felt like the air pressure had dropped. The judge's face turned into a mask of pure, absolute stone. She looked slowly from the tablet down to Trevor, who was practically melting into his chair. The gavel came down like a gunshot. Trevor was instantly stripped of all visitation rights. The judge signed a permanent, unmodifiable restraining order barring him from coming within 500 feet of me or my daughter. Effective immediately. He was legally erased from our lives in less than 3 minutes. On the sunlit courthouse steps, the heavy Charleston humidity wrapping around us, Julia handed me the manila envelope containing the signed orders. She adjusted her briefcase, gave me a sharp, warm smile, and delivered her final piece of advice. "I have seen a lot of scorched earth revenge in family court, Natalie," she said. "But yours is a masterpiece. Lose my number. You are never going to need me again." She turned and disappeared into the crowded sidewalk, leaving me standing in the sunlight, breathing freely for the first time in 15 years. The destruction of the Sullivan Empire was methodical, bureaucratic, and devastatingly absolute. The Internal Revenue Service did not send a polite letter. They executed a coordinated raid on the Sullivan construction headquarters. Marcus's corporate assets were frozen instantly. The company was forcibly liquidated at auction to pay the massive back taxes, federal penalties, and accrued interest. The Charleston mansion went into foreclosure. The country club revoked their membership. Courtney, stripped of her phantom marketing salary, was forced to take a minimum wage job as a hostess at a seafood restaurant just to pay her rent. Trevor, drowning in legal debt and entirely cut off from the family wealth, moved into a tiny apartment on the outskirts of the county. I was sitting on the balcony of my new, secure apartment, holding my perfectly healthy baby girl against my chest. The afternoon breeze was coming off the water. My phone lit up on the patio table. It was a desperate, blocked incoming call. I knew exactly who it was. I smiled, picked up the device, and dropped it into my purse without even breaking my gaze from the horizon. Justice is not a movie scene. It does not look like a dramatic screaming match in the pouring rain. And it does not end with an apology. The people who exploit you will never apologize, because they do not believe they did anything wrong. When the dust settled and the final gavel struck, the judge sentenced Marcus to 6 years in state prison for federal tax evasion and corporate fraud, with eligibility for parole only after 4 years. The court ordered Trevor to pay $142,000 in restitution and legal fees. The social fallout was faster than the legal one. In a town like Charleston, reputation is oxygen. The moment the federal indictments became public record, the Sullivan name became absolute poison. The same country club members who used to drink Marcus's premium scotch stopped returning his calls. The neighbors who used to attend their lavish barbecues suddenly crossed the street when they saw them. They did not just lose their freedom and their money. They lost the only thing they actually cared about: their audience. 6 months later, the mail carrier dropped a thick envelope into my new post office box. It was stamped with the seal of a correctional facility. Marcus had tried to reach out. The letter was a masterpiece of narcissistic manipulation. He wrote about the importance of family, about how he always viewed me as a daughter, about how the baby needed her grandfather. He tried to claim he did it all to build a legacy for us. 10 years ago, that letter would have destroyed me. I would have agonized over every word. I would have drafted a dozen angry replies trying to make him understand my pain. But true power is the absence of a reaction. I did not feel a single spark of anger. I felt nothing but a profound, hollow pity. I did not open the letter. I did not read the excuses. I simply dropped the sealed envelope into the recycling bin outside the post office and went to meet my friends for brunch. That is what healing actually looks like. It is the quiet replacement of toxic chaos with peace. My life is no longer filled with frantic midnight phone calls about broken ledgers or desperate attempts to iron linen shirts for ungrateful men. I am surrounded by a chosen family. The friends who brought me meals when the baby was born. The colleagues who stepped up to help me secure my promotion at work. People who treat my presence as a privilege, not a utility. If you are listening to this right now, and you are the one carrying the entire emotional and financial weight of your family, I need you to hear me clearly. Narcissists and abusers do not view you as a human being. They view you as an appliance. They love you exactly the way a person loves a washing machine. You are incredibly valuable to them as long as you are quietly washing their dirty laundry, managing their messes, and keeping their lives functioning. But the moment you unplug yourself, the moment you demand maintenance, respect, or boundaries, you are no longer a beloved family member. You are a broken appliance that is inconveniencing them, and they will discard you without a second thought. I survived the Sullivan family, and I walked away with my dignity, my daughter, and my sanity intact because I finally accepted 3 absolute rules of survival. Rule number 1. Blood and marriage certificates do not make you family. Respect makes you family. A title like husband or father-in-law does not grant anyone a license for financial abuse. If they weaponize the word family to make you work for free or accept disrespect, they are not your family. They are your employers, and they are stealing your wages. Rule number 2. Forgiveness without accountability is just an invitation for more abuse. If I had cried, yelled, and eventually forgiven Trevor for that cruise, he would not have respected my mercy. He would have learned that my boundaries are made of paper, and my threats mean nothing. Real boundaries require real consequences. Rule number 3. The most dangerous woman in the room is the one who stops explaining herself and starts documenting. Toxic people thrive in the chaos of a screaming match. They know how to twist your words. They know how to call you crazy. They cannot twist a bank statement. They cannot manipulate a digital footprint. Stop giving them your tears and start gathering your receipts. Take a very hard, honest look at the people you are bending over backward for right now. The people whose messes you clean up, whose secrets you keep, whose egos you constantly stroke. If you stopped setting yourself on fire to keep them warm today, would they still have a seat for you at the table tomorrow? If the answer is no, it is time to pack your things. Share this story with the fixer in your family who desperately needs to hear this truth. Drop a comment below and tell me about your own breaking point. The moment you realized you had to walk away. And make sure to hit subscribe for more stories of quiet women who finally stopped being quiet. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there asking, why did she work for free for 15 years? Why did she let them use her pristine name on federal tax documents? How could a woman so brilliant with numbers be so completely blind to the people draining her life? Take a breath, because I need to tell you a hard truth. She was not stupid. She was trapped in something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. In the streets, we call it the slot machine effect. Toxic families like the Sullivans do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would walk out the door and never look back. Instead, they give you crumbs of hope, a rare compliment from a narcissist father-in-law, a fake promise of a promotion, a momentary smile. You keep pulling the lever. You keep working late, balancing their books, and covering their messes, hoping that the next time you pull it, you will finally hit the jackpot of their genuine love and respect. But the house always wins, and the game is rigged to keep you playing until you are completely bankrupt. But once Natalie finally stepped away from the machine, her retaliation was a masterclass in financial self-defense. Let's break down her 3 smartest moves so you can use them in your own life. First, the audit strategy. Scammers and manipulators absolutely hate details. They rely on your exhaustion. They hope you will not check the pending bank transfers. And they pray you will not look past the primary ledger. By drilling down into the exact transaction history and bypassing that encryption wall, Natalie stripped them of their shadows. When you are dealing with a manipulator, stop listening to their words and start auditing their actions. Second, the buyout. When Natalie saw that massive wire transfer pending, she did not drain the entire account out of spite. That is what amateurs do, and it gets them penalized in divorce court. Instead, she routed exactly 50% her legal half into a secure solo account. Then, she filed for innocent spouse relief. She did not try to win a screaming match. She legally bought out her own freedom by immunizing herself from their federal crimes. Sometimes, you have to invest in your own escape route by doing everything strictly by the book. Third, building the case. Never confront a manipulator with raw emotion. Confront them with metadata. When Trevor threatened her with Child Protective Services, Natalie did not panic or beg. She already had the screen recording of his drunken confession from the yacht. She let the evidence do the talking. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. But the person holding the receipts holds the power. Here is the ultimate verdict. Your usefulness is not your worth. The moment Natalie stopped managing their chaos, the Sullivan empire collapsed. Blood and marriage certificates do not make you family. Respect makes you family. Have you ever found yourself trapped in the slot machine effect with a partner, a boss, or a toxic relative? Head down to the comments and tell me how you finally broke the cycle and walked away. Make sure to hit subscribe to keep sharpening your mind. And remember, protect your peace. And always keep your receipts. I will see you in the next video.